Hi, this is just a brief review of how to solve quadratic functions or quadratic equations. The first method that I'm going to go through, or the method of this video that I'm going to go through, is solving by the square root method. If I'm solving by the square root method, one type of problem that I could have would be 2 parentheses x plus 5 squared plus 30 equals 0. Again, we can use the solving by square root method because there's no bx term and we see a quantity that is squared. So our first step is that we're going to subtract 30 from both sides. So subtract 30 from both sides. So you get 2 times the quantity of 5x squared equals negative 30. Then we are going to divide by 2 on both sides, so it's just solving algebraically. So we're left with quantity x plus 5 squared equals negative 15. And from here, now that you have your quantity that's squared completely by itself, notice there are no other terms with an x in it, now you can square root. And if you square root something that's squared, that just goes away. If you square root a number, remember that there is a plus or a minus to that number, so we have plus or minus negative 15. We again still want to get x by itself, so we're going to have to subtract 5 from both sides. So I get x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 15. The last thing we can do is we realize that we can't take the square root of a negative number. So what we have learned is that we can leave our negative 5 alone, leave our plus or minus alone, but we can take out that negative value by popping an I out because we know that our answer is going to be imaginary, it's not going to be real. So my final answer when I'm solving this by the square root method is negative 5 plus or minus I square root of 15. Another example would be if I had something that looked like x squared minus 64 equals 0. Again, I know I can use the square root method because there's no bx term. So the first thing I would do is add 64 to both sides. Then I need to take the square root of both sides. Again, when I take the square root, it's plus or minus of the value. And then I know that the square root of 64 is plus or minus 8. So again, it's the same process as over here as we do with a problem like this. Sometimes you have to add or subtract, sometimes you have to divide, and then you have to take square root. Don't forget the plus or the minus.